Hi, everyone joining us.
Hi.
I know you're all on mute. I could see some of your faces, some of your pictures, some of your names. Burger King, I love it. That's great.
No.
Hi, everyone. Okay, maybe we start in a minute, Mirabelle?
Yeah, sounds good. Should we get started?
Let's
Yeah.
hit it.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today over Zoom. My name's Mirabelle. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I'm a rising senior at Hobart and William Smith. I am a major in architectural studies and a minor in dance. And I'm here with my advisor, Gabriella DAngelo. She's been my advisor for the whole time I've been here in architecture. I've taken a lot of classes with her, so we have a pretty close relationship, and we're here to talk a little bit about architecture and the program we have at HWS. Just one quick thing, if you could all keep your microphones on mute so to eliminate any background noise, that would be awesome. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat, or we'll have a question time later in the session as well. Yeah, get started. Gabriella is the Associate Professor of Art and Architecture at the colleges. And Professor, could you tell us a little bit about your background and any research or projects you've been working on?
Absolutely. So thank you all again for being here with us today. We realize this is, a pretty interesting time that we're in right now, and we're thankful that we have these technologies to share with you all so that we can connect in some ways. So thank you for your time. Again, my name's Gabriella DAngelo, and I'm trained as an architect several times over. So I've had a passion for art and design and history and math my entire life, and have kind of been a generalist my whole life too, jumping into a lot of different things. So being a designer is a pretty awesome hat to wear because it allows me to connect to a lot of different subjects that I am interested in. I do wear a lot of hats as a designer. I have a design build firm with my husband, and so we do work together, mostly locally in Geneva, a lot of residential work and some small commercial work as well. So that's currently on hold a little bit because of the situation that we're in, but we're staying busy with our house that's from the 1700s. I'm also an experimental designer, and so I do a lot of funky design work. Like right now I'm working on emergency inflatable environments, designing and prototyping work for an exhibition that's going to open up in the fall. That was a collaboration with a poet that I've been working with for a couple of years now. And also, I've been fabricating shields and visors for our hospitals here in Geneva and around New York. So while we've been quarantined for the past month plus, just staying busy with all kinds of design opportunities and helping my community as much as I can. So yeah, I mean, I kind of have my hands in a little bit of everything, all different type of scaled work, from buildings to parks to garments and clothing. It's really exciting, and I like to bring that into my classroom as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Yay. I also forgot to mention, I have some other extracurricular things I do on campus. I'm heavily involved in the Koshari Dance Collective, which is an awesome dance collective on campus, not necessarily having to do with architecture, but I do a lot of different things on campus, which is nice. The program allows me to do that. And then also, Professor DAngelo and I were actually abroad this semester in Rome, Italy, and unfortunately, for obvious reasons, had to come back. But we were there for about 7 weeks, and I still got a great experience out of it, even though it was cut short, and really had like a great relationship with the colleges as we came back, and even communicating over like Zoom classes now. Yeah, I have another question for the professor. I've had the good fortune of partnering with you throughout my time at HWS, taken a lot of your classes in studios, and we have been building our advisor-advisee relationship. Would you mind explaining a bit more about the many ways in which students and faculty might collaborate in the architecture department?
Yeah, absolutely. So our program is really awesome size. We have about 30 to 35 majors in each class, and there's 3 of us who are focused on architecture solely, and we have 5 of us total. So from studio art and from art history side of things. So there's about 5 of us that work to advise you all. And we're advising you in your courses. So what courses should you be taking? How do you stick to a certain track? What if you're interested in landscape architecture or graphic design or interior design? Are there certain classes that you should take in order to kind of prepare for that interest, or just to dive into it a little bit more? I do advising with students not only on their courses and just kind of overall making sure that they're doing well with all of their goals towards graduation with their major, minors, etc. But I also do a lot of advising with graduate school and things that happen after HWS. So, what do you want to do? And we start talking about this pretty early on in the program, just to get you guys thinking, what is it about design and architecture that might be inspiring or interesting to you? What do you want to test out? And you have that opportunity at our colleges with our program because it is a pre-professional degree. So there's only 13 classes that are required. And that gives you a lot of flexibility when you have 32 classes total to complete towards graduation. So some of our students are going on to graduate school, and some of them are deciding that they want to work, and some of them totally want to shift gears and head into the business quarters or start their own businesses, things of that nature. So we're advising them in a multitude of ways, just to make sure that they're feeling supported while they're students at the colleges and then after as well. And I actually get a lot of emails still from students who have gone to HWS that like to contact me to let me know where they're at and how they're doing, or they still are looking for advisement when they're going to get jobs, or they're done with grad school, or they're still in grad school and they're just trying to get a handle on it. So we have a really close kind of connection with our students. But we also have really small classes then as well. So my classes, I generally have between 12 and 18 students. I primarily teach the design studios, so anything from an introduction design studio in 3D all the way through to the core courses in design studios, and into the capstone class, which is a portfolio design class for us. So I'm I'm in design with you all from the very beginning all the way through to the end. And we're working very closely with one another in these classes. They're pretty intensive classes that are really interactive. You get a lot of hands-on experience with design, and I'm working really closely with you as you're developing your design ideas and interests. So there's also that as well. And I've also worked with students during the summer. So occasionally we have research summer positions for our students. And I used to do internships as well, where you will be selected to help out with my research and helping me with my design. And that's often doing these kind of experimental design projects. It could also be in community engaged projects, which I'm also really kind of connected with inside and outside of my classes. So yeah, so maybe that
Yeah.
answered the question.
Yeah, I think I also really value that personal connection we get with professors in any department at HWS, but especially in architecture, just because naturally we're spending a lot of time in the studio and a lot of time working with each other, and the community that we build, I think, is really great and like a supportive design environment. And yeah, with our professors and our peers, for sure.
Yeah, it's really important, right, to feel that
Yeah,
support and also to have that energy, that creative energy working together.
for sure. As I mentioned before, I'm obviously majoring in architectural studies, and one of the things that also drew me to the program was the emphasis on design in general. Professor, could you explain the curriculum a bit and the types of courses architectural students might take?
Absolutely. So as I said before, we're a pre-professional degree, which means that students have the flexibility to take not only architecture and design classes, but they're also taking classes outside of our department in biology, in dance, in environmental studies, in English, in women's studies, all kinds of opportunities there. So what was I saying? So our courses then are set up so that we basically introduce you to architecture and design through studio art and a history class. We also have core courses in design, in history theory. You're going to focus on environmental studies, on urban studies, and then you have flexibility to choose a bunch of electives as well that are connecting to your other interests, so other majors and minors, or just anything that's connected to design in some way. Mirabelle is saying that, you know, she's an epic dancer, and so she is taking these classes in dance, and while they're not architecture classes, they're relating to body and space, right? So the idea of how you move in space and understanding how the body does that, right? That's really important in architecture. And so we encourage our students to take these classes outside of our major that connect in some way to design, in some way to body and space, in some way to the history of urban studies or history, or design or environment. So again, we're looking to ultimately allow for you to have a focus on the kind of fundamentals of design through making, the history of it, how it's connecting to society, and how it's connecting to design and design practice. And we want you to be well-rounded students. We want you to be well-rounded designers, because ultimately knowing more will allow you to design better in your future.
Yeah, I agree. I was just going to say that I really like the flexibility of the program too, even though there are 13 classes that you have to adhere to within that, like, um, goal of completing your major, you can really tailor your education to whatever you want. So like in my case, I'm tailoring it to body awareness, spatial awareness, and that does really influence my design aesthetic. And I think it's really interesting that I can take some of my dance classes that are more aware of that kind of movement in space and like movement analysis, and put that to use in my architectural classes.
And for students that are interested, for instance, you know, we say that we're an architectural studies program, but we're really focused on the process of design and the kind of foundation in design. So you could continue on with architecture if you want and focus in on architecture. You could do landscape architecture, industrial and interior design, historic preservation, urban planning, graphic design. There's so many options in terms of a design focused career that you could continue on with after HWS. And a lot of our students do that. And so they're taking classes again, you know, inside of sociology and psychology if they're interested in interior design, because they want to understand how people think and respond to certain things and how that could impact the way that we design spaces, right? Or they're taking classes in history and in art history and in urban studies because they want to go on for historic preservation, right? And so understanding a little bit more about the kind of historical connection and content as it relates to architecture and design is really important. So again, our students are really kind of reaching out into a variety of fields and connecting it back to design. And in terms of a process, we love bringing that into our classes as well, that it's not just focused on architecture as building, but it's architecture as, it could be a product design, as a garment, as an installation, as a building, as a landscape. So we really like to experiment with that and connect it to what your interests are ultimately, because that's what makes our classes enriching, is that kind of connection we have with our students. And because of the scale of our classes and because of our advising style, we're able to have those really strong connections with you all.
Yeah, I would also just add on to that, as a rising senior who's thinking about grad school and thinking about what I'm going to do after college. I would say I have a very firm foundation in architectural studies, but I also feel confident applying to grad school for other subjects just because of the design knowledge that I have through this program as well. So if I'm like right now, I'm thinking about either going into architectural studies for grad school or graphic design or some other design field. And I feel completely confident with the level of education that I've gotten from this program that I would be able to succeed very well in grad school, even though I may not have had like the more traditional way, but I'm able to have a well-rounded design knowledge through this curriculum.
It's well-rounded. Oh, sorry, Maribel.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's well-rounded design, but it's also being critical thinkers, right? And
Yeah,
being critically
yeah,
engaged with issues, cultural issues, environmental issues, social political issues. It's being engaged with materials and thinking about how that can translate into environments and what that can do. It's you know, it's a lot of things that are really kind of engaged in a heightened way that relate to design, but also connect to a larger framework
yeah,
surrounding them.
yeah, for sure. Um, Obviously, thinking about grad school is at the top of my mind right now as I move into my senior year. Um, have you noticed that there are any common themes for architectural study majors after graduation? Do you see a majority pursuing graduate school or looking for specific types of jobs?
Yeah, so every year it shifts. There's ebbs and flows and who applies to graduate school and who's kind of holding off. Generally, we have about 50% of our students applying to grad school right away. So they're going on for a master's of architecture, landscape architecture, interior design, urban design, uh, planning, etc. Some are going into construction management and real estate and just anything that's related to architecture and design. Some of them are, so of those 50% that are applying to grad school in various directions, most of them go on for a master's of architecture. Some of them are going on for dual degrees. So they're doing landscape architecture and architecture, or urban planning and architecture. So that's kind of half of our students, and they're applying and getting into schools all over the country, and some of them internationally as well. So we've had a student out in Dublin, and has done amazing. She was from Canada as well. We have students at the University at Michigan, RISD, Harvard, Yale. They're all over the map, and they, Oregon. We also have some students out there right now too. So they're all over the country and in a various programs that are really incredible, and they get really good feedback from the schools that they go to when they're applying. A lot of them are getting scholarships and pretty notable positions because of their foundation in design that they get at HWS. The other half of our students are doing all kinds of things. So some of them are working, they want to go right into the field and start working, and they can do that. So you can work in an architecture firm, you can work towards licensure as well, as long as you're working with the accreditation program to do so. They are starting their own businesses, they are working in museums, they are doing things that are totally not related to architecture too, like working in business, teaching and writing and all kinds of things. So they get, again, that foundation in our program to be creative, to be critical thinkers, and that translates really well into all kinds of fields inside and outside of architecture and design.
Yeah, I would just add on that, like, as someone thinking about grad school and someone moving into a year where I'm going to think about applying and creating a portfolio and stuff, I think one unique aspect of the program at HWS is that we get an incredible amount of support with that. Professors walk us through the process of creating a really stunning portfolio that sticks out to grad schools and any employers or anything. And they really set us up for success after graduation so that we can do whatever we want with our architectural degree from HWS. But they also, like, just through our senior spring, senior fall, whenever you choose to take your capstone course, it's really involved and you'll come out with a really fantastic project. And I'm really excited to take the course. I'm taking it in the fall because I know it's going to be a great display of my work, and it's that class and the fact that they offer this specific course to make a portfolio leads to a lot of really great opportunities after HWS, and I'll probably use that portfolio for a while until I have new work, of course. But yeah, I think just the amount of support really stuck out to me when I was applying to colleges and I was looking at architecture programs. The amount of support, because the program is so small and we work so closely with professors, I knew I was going to be like taken care of the whole time, and really the program was really going to be adjusted to what I wanted to do and to make sure that I was going to succeed, which I thought was really important. That was important to me when I was applying to colleges. Last question. Yeah.
I was going to say,
Go ahead.
an important thing too is that, you know, our students are amazing. They're energized, they're engaged. You know, Mirabelle works her tail off and it shows in her work, and she is my TA right now in one of my classes. And she's done amazing work, and it's because she has a passion for what she's doing, and she's found that in our program. And the people that surround her, again, help to support that kind of energy and that passion. So it's important to, you know, to be interested in what you're doing ultimately, and to continue to find your voice and passion within that. And Mirabelle is doing that.
Thank you. I would also add that just, I think in a lot of design fields, but especially architecture, there can be a studio culture and just like general major culture of competitiveness. And this program does not have that at all. Of course, there's like always a little bit of healthy competitiveness, but there's also a huge culture of just support and everyone talking about ideas. Like when we're working on our homework in studio together after class, it's collaborative. People are talking. No one's really like hiding their work or trying to like do any sneaky things. And I think that's like unusual for a design program to be really collaborative. Even though we're getting individual grades, we all want to help each other become better designers. And that really strengthens the community and ultimately strengthens everyone's design aesthetic and aspects as a designer as well. This is my last question before we'll open it up to the audience. Professor, how do you make the case for the value of liberal arts education and an architecture major in today's environment?
Sure. So it's funny because I was just watching a lecture that was on Zoom, of course, and the architect that was speaking said, you know, architecture is the last profession of generalists, right? We basically know a little bit about everything, and we need to know a little bit about everything in order to enhance and advance the profession. And in order to work with people that are from all walks of life and all interests. So when you're working with clients, for instance, you're not working with architects, you're not working with designers, you're working with people that are teachers, they're biologists, they're doctors, they're writers, they're engineers, right? They are not designers, but you need to know a little bit about what they do, and you need to know a little bit about what their interests are, and how could you translate that into design, the design of a space, the design of an environment, the design of a landscape, the design of a product, whatever that is. So knowing as much as you can and taking it all in as a designer, being inquisitive is really important. And at at a liberal arts institution and at HWS, our program allows for you to do that, and it encourages you to do that, to go out and to explore all kinds of other interests that you have, to take classes that you probably don't want to take, but you end up really appreciating and loving and incorporating into your work somehow, right? So it expands your horizons. It allows you to be an inquisitive learner of many things, and then to bring that into your designs ultimately. So the more you know, the more you can create. And I always tell my students that, and I've probably already said that already today in this meeting, but it's really true. The more you explore, the better your designs are going to be ultimately. And so for our designers, we really believe that, they have very unique takes on design. It's not prescribed, because they can explore all different classes while they're in our major, inside of our major and outside of our major. They're not focused on the kind of professional side of things, like on structures or on code and different kinds of professional law and things of that nature. They're focused on designing and exploring a variety of subjects and interests. And so that's something that I think is really unique to our program and is really unique to a liberal arts experience, and which will ultimately make you the best designer you can be at the end of the day, or figure out what that thing is that you really love and want to pursue.
Yeah, I would also add, when I was applying to colleges my senior year of high school and thinking about where I wanted to go and thinking about the environment that I wanted to be in, I was looking at some larger state schools for a B.Arch program to get the 5-year degree. And I was really debating between going to a smaller liberal arts school like HWS or getting it over with in 5 years. And I think I ended up at a place like HWS because I knew I had other interests than just architecture, like dance. I'm also somewhat interested in like philosophy and other classes that I've been able to take through this liberal arts program. And I think ultimately, even though I might not be getting my degree as quickly as other B.Arch students at different schools, I'm coming out with a more well-rounded education. And I'm coming out with, we've mentioned this so many times, but like the whole design aspect, and I'm getting a lot more of like critical thinking and being able to like, I'm learning how to learn in this program rather than in one field of architecture. Yeah, but also another thing I really value about the program that I'm in is that they really emphasize hand work and like hand drawing, which is not which is unusual in this day and age for architectural programs, because most of them are focusing on online programs, of course, like AutoCAD, Revit and things, but we learn those programs. But we also have a huge emphasis on developing hand skills and being able to draw things out, which is unusual when looking at portfolios. And that's like, when I create my portfolio, that's going to stick out, because many of the other architectural students right now are making things online, and I will have those computer programs in my portfolio, but I'll also have all this hand-drawn work that also shows me as a well-rounded designer and like overall artist as well, which is like something that stuck out to me when I was applying. If anyone has any questions right now, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll answer, or also feel free to ask them or unmute yourself. I'll give a couple of moments for that.
I'm also going to write to everybody to let you know my email is. So if you have any questions, you can find me on the HWS website, but you can also email me directly, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions or get you in touch with somebody that can answer your questions.
Yeah, I'll write my email too if you have any more specific student questions. If you want like really inside look on that, I will totally answer any questions you have. Do students in the architecture program participate in internships?
So, we do have some summer opportunities occasionally. We call them summer research positions. And so those are paid positions where you would stay on campus, live in the dorms, and work with a faculty member. So when that's available, we definitely have students working for us. I've had upwards of 5 students working with me during the summer. So it doesn't happen every summer, but when it's available, we definitely try to pull our students in to help us work. We also encourage our students and work with our students to get internships as early as they can, or, you know, again, it's competitive getting an internship. It's not a requirement for us. You can get credit if you do get an internship through the dean's office. But we talk with you all in our advising meetings so that you know when you should start applying, and work with you to develop portfolios and resumes and you know, cover letters and things of that nature as need be, and dean references for you as well. So so while it's not required, we definitely try to work with our students on that.
Yeah, I was actually working closely with Professor DAngelo this semester to develop a rough portfolio and a bunch of cover letters for internships this summer. Obviously not going as well as I thought due to the COVID-19, but I had a lot of support through that process, and all the professors in the architecture department are willing to help you through that. Next question, is there ever a concern, especially during longer, later studio hours, with the fact that the architecture department is physically separate from the main campus?
Mm-hmm.
Also, do you recommend certain freshman seminars for ARC students?
Sure. So the first question, the safety of our students is also is obviously really important. And we have security that basically is working round the clock to make sure that everything is good on the arts campus. So even though it is a 10 to 15-minute walk from the main campus, we do have people out making sure that everything is safe. Not just anybody is allowed into our buildings, so you have to have access via a key card to get in, which is an important thing as well. And we have shuttles that go at night from the arts campus to your dorms or where you're living. So that's a kind of added level of protection. We also, it's very rare that a student is working on their own in the studios.
Yeah.
And so again, as Mirabella said, there's always kind of a crew, or this kind of culture, a studio culture, where we have a lot of different people working together. And so our students are really protective of one another and make sure that everybody is safe. And so there's a lot of carpooling that happens as well. So we definitely understand that, you know, this is something that we need to continue to check on, and we do with our students. And I think that everybody feels pretty safe.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk to that more.
I have never owned a car on campus just because I live in Oregon and it's impossible for me to get a car out to New York. And I have never had an issue feeling unsafe on the campus. I think it actually is kind of a benefit, even though it is farther away from my other friends or other peers that are not in the architecture department. I think it really like fosters the creative community, because everyone, especially on like late night when we have a huge assignment due or we have a final crit the next day, like everyone's in it together. We like order food sometimes. If it gets really late, we'll order pizza. I've never felt unsafe there. The building locks at a certain hour and we have key cards to get in. And yeah, I think it's honestly, even if you're stressed out and you have a lot of work, I really enjoy being in studio just because everyone's kind of in it together. And even if there are multiple studios, obviously, in Houghton House, and it's just fun also to like walk around and see my other friends in other studios because we mix up so much taking different courses. Yeah, I see it as a plus, but it's also a little inconvenient. I use the shuttle a lot, but also as soon as you get to know people in your classes, just ask them for a ride. That's what I do. um, and then any certain freshman seminar for ARC students?
ARC students, so our department, which is architecture, studio art, and art history, we try to offer at least one freshman seminar every year. So faculty in architectural studies isn't always teaching in FSEM. Occasionally they will be. So those are great, great FSEMs to take. The one that I taught a couple of years back now was called Epic Fails. So it wasn't specifically connected to architecture, but it was connected to failure more generally. So thinking about it psychologically, but also connecting it to a variety of projects like around the world. So some architecture, some with the medical fields and onwards. But anytime, I think there's a really interesting crop of classes for our FSEM that are introduced every year. And so if you see one that you're interested in, just take it. I don't think it matters if it's connected to architecture and design at all. I think it's just about learning and being introduced into the kind of culture of the colleges. And what I would suggest though, is that you try to get into an intro class. So one of the prerequisite classes that we have that you need to take before you can major include Intro to Architecture, Intro to Drawing, and Intro to 3D Design. So any of those classes, if you can get into one of them that first semester, fantastic. If you can get into one of them just in your first year, you're in a good spot. So there's no need to rush into anything. Take what you're interested in, and that's the beauty of a liberal arts college.
Yeah, my freshman seminar didn't relate to our architecture at all. I actually got placed in an environmental studies one, but I was able to use it as an elective to work towards my architectural major. So I would say take that time to do anything that you're interested in, and most likely because of the liberal arts education, it'll probably work your way into your degree. Next question, how does the process of entering the program work as a freshman, and what other classes would be a good foundation to enter the program?
Sure. So again, you can work with admissions, I believe, and the registrar to get into some classes that you might be interested in. There's a whole bunch of lists that they send out to you, basically indicating what are your interests, and they try to get you into those. So our deans work really hard to get you into those classes, at least one of those classes. And then during your first week on campus, you work with your FSEM faculty member to register for 2 courses. It was 2 courses last year. It was 1 course when I was there. So you have agency to choose some of your own classes once you get to campus, and to understand how to register for classes, which can be a little complicated too. So knowing that right as you're getting in is really helpful down the line when it comes to registering for each semester. So again, you're working with the deans, you're working with your advisor, and you're trying to get into some of those classes that you're interested in. And again, in that first couple of semesters, trying to get some of those prerequisite classes out of the way is really important. So Intro to Architecture, Intro to 3D Design, and Intro to Drawing are the courses that you want to try to focus on. You can only take one studio art class at a time, or one of those prereq art classes at a time. So you can either take Intro to 3D or Intro to Drawing, but you can't take both of them together because it is too much work, and we want to make sure that you are all managing your workload well, on top of all of the other things that you might be doing, your other classes, other kind of clubs and activities that you're doing. You might have a job, whatever it might be, right? You want to make sure that you're balancing life and work well, and we make sure that you do that.
Great. Another question. You mentioned multiple schools with MArch programs that students have gone on to. Do you have any direct connections with certain schools? Are there any schools that specifically look for HWS students?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of students recently who have gone to Yale, Harvard, RISD, and University of Washington, St. Louis. We used to have a connection with St. Louis, Washington, St. Louis, but we don't have that, like we don't have a direct line to any of these institutions. These are the ones that seem to really like our students' work, and their pedagogy or their kind of curriculum structure seems to fit really well with what our students have in terms of their foundation from HWS. So, so our students just really like these programs as well, because they seem like a really nice extension of what they've learned while students at HWS. But we don't have any connections with anybody just yet. We're working with graduate schools right now to try to see if there's something that we can do on our end while students are at HWS to help them fulfill some requirements for grad school so that you can get advanced standing. We're still working on that. There's never a guarantee that you're going to get advanced standing moving on into graduate school. But if we can do something on our end to help you all out, you know, as you're moving onwards beyond your time at HWS, we strive to do that. So, so we're in conversation with a few institutions right now, but nothing is, there's no physical connections there.
Is the studio space shared, or do students get their own desks?
Yeah, so it depends on what studio you're in. In intro classes, like intro to 3D, there's a big studio space that everybody uses. You get your own locker area to kind of, you know, hold all of your tools and projects. But you might be sharing that with an intro to sculpture class, or an advanced sculpture class, or another intro to 3D class. So that's more of a shared studio. Inside of intro to drawing, you get your own kind of easel space. So you kind of have your own setup, and that doesn't get shared with anybody. And in your architecture design core courses, so the higher advanced level studios, you get your own desk inside of a space, and you get to use that for the whole semester. So. And some of our students also do independent studies, or they're doing honors projects, and they often try to find a space as well inside of our studios in Houghton House to work in. So we again try to accommodate students with spaces if they're interested in working in design.
Yeah, we each get our own individual desks. I never have any concern about leaving my stuff out, ever. I always just leave it out on the desk, neatly put away, of course. But we're in one big room together, and there's typically between like 10 and 12 desks,
Yeah,
I think.
12 desks.
Yeah, how many ever students are in the class. And so we're all in the same small room together, but we each have our own individual space, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. And then in the collective studio as well, in the architecture higher level studios, there's also, we have all of the materials for you. So yeah. Anything that you're doing for modeling and final drawings, all of that is provided to you as a student, which is really nice too. And that's all inside of your studios.
Yeah. So this will be our last question of the day, but are there any online classes I could take right now that would benefit me for the future in architectural studies?
Sure. So, wow, we are in a landscape of online remote learning right now. And so there's a lot of new opportunities that I think are popping up for everybody. Great things that you can learn. So, well, one, for online stuff, there are programs like SketchUp, Rhino, CAD, Adobe, and you can download those programs, and in each of those programs, they also have a slew of tutorials that you can do so that you can learn yourself. So that's one option, is that you're kind of self-learning. And that works perfectly fine as long as you have some motivation behind to continue on with that. There are institutions that also have online opportunities for you as well. So looking into your local colleges or into a larger design school that you're interested in, or just know of, is a good place to see if they have opportunities for you. As high school students interested in architecture, there are summer exploratory programs that you can do. So for instance, at Cornell, I know they have one. At SciArc in California, they have one. Harvard has them. Yeah, there's a lot of programs around the country that it's basically like a 3 to 3 to 6 week program. And it basically is an introduction into architecture and design. It's called like summer exploration or something like that. And that is a really awesome opportunity for you all as well. We have students do that before they get to HWS sometimes, and we have students that do that during their summers while they're at HWS also, if they want to get more options for studio and just learning design and diversifying that. For our students as well, there are, right now, we have summer options for them. So if you are interested in just continuing to learn outside of your semesters, there are opportunities to do so as well while you're a student. But while you're kind of transitioning or wanting to learn a little bit on your own, I would say pick a program, see what is available to you in terms of those tutorials that are online already, and do some exploring that way.
Great. Awesome. So unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us over Zoom. If you have any further questions, feel free to email either Professor DAngelo or I at any point in the decision-making process. We have given you our emails in the chat. And of course, if you have any other further questions, feel free to contact the Office of Admissions. Thanks so much for your time, and good luck with all the college decisions.
Yeah, good luck with everything, and hopefully we see you in your futures.
Yes. Thanks.
Stay safe, be healthy. Thanks, Mirabelle.
Yeah, thank you.